welcome to this week's episode of Built by Ben. In this week's episode we're going to be building the framework for an acoustic ceiling. If you like what you see on this channel, subscribe to the channel, press that like button and tell your mates about it. Thank you. Okay, so the first thing we're doing is getting the pole set up there to hold my laser. First job is just setting that laser around the room and making sure that your highest point of the framework is not going to hit any of the surfaces. So we just cut a couple of bits of wood there to act as the second man, really, because I was building this one alone. You can get that up there, as you can see, and then just keep on tapping the bottom up until you're at the right height and you're hitting that laser there. So we just skip forward a bit there because I was off camera drilling the right hand side of that beam. But all we're doing there is going through with a 7mm masonry bit into the wall, and then we're hitting a brown plug through the hole all the way into the wall using a 120 by 6mm screw. Them screws are put at every 400 centres because that's what the structural engineer asked for. Just jigsawing a little bit out of the wood there just to get us around them pipes that you can see in the wall. Again, using them wooden props as a second man to hold that bit of wood up there for me. Just tapping the bottom with my foot there just to get it to hit that green laser line. It's a really good way of doing it if you're solo. And again, we're just going in with the 7mm masonry bit all the way through the wood and into the wall, tapping that brown plug through with the 5mm by 120mm screw, and then sending that all the way home with the impact drill. So the reason for building these ceilings is that there's a room above this one. We're trying to eliminate any sound from flanking up the walls and entering that room. So we're just building this separate ceiling from the existing ceiling. We've underboarded the existing ceiling already, and then we build this framework and we underboard the framework with a double acoustic board as well. So altogether you've got the existing ceiling, then another skin of plasterboard, and then we've got a double skin of acoustic plasterboard going in underneath this framework that we're building here. And the framework also gets filled with an acoustic roll, like a loft roll, but acoustic rated. And that gives that upstairs room the acoustic rating that it needs, and it also stops any noise from upstairs travelling back downstairs. So it obviously works both ways. What we're doing here is we're just screwing a bit of 4x2 to the underneath of that one, leaving 2 inches sticking proud. And again, that's just because I'm working solo on this one. We're going to be sticking these joists up by myself, so that bit of 4x2 there just ensures that one end is being held and can't fall. If one of these things does fall, it'll take you off with it. So we're just measuring up for the joists here. If you start at 380 from the wall to mark your first one, and then go 400 from there for your centres. And what that ensures is that when the plasterboarders come in after you, they obviously come in with a 1200 board, and if you've marked your first one at 400 and then gone 400 centres from there, your 1200mm board actually just misses the stud that it's meant to hit. So they end up cutting about 380mm off of every board that goes against the wall there. So it's a nice little tip, just start your first one at 380 and then take your 400 centres from there. And then I'm just using my distance laser there just to measure them all up. Now it's a good idea with these lasers just to go and cut one of the joists first, just to check that that laser is quite accurate, because sometimes they do fall out of accuracy a little bit. So we just write down all of the joist lengths there, and I'll disappear and cut one of them. Just get everything out of the way that can obstruct getting your joist up, because you don't want something getting tangled up on the joist as you're installing it. So I've just cut that first one, we'll stick that up, and once we know that that one fits, we'll just go off and cut the rest of them. And as I do that, I'll leave you with a compilation of what happens on a site when you leave your camera rolling. Enjoy. And there's me returning into the room, not knowing what the hell's going on. But thanks lads, bit of entertainment for the channel. Nice one. So we've got the rest of them joists cut. They're all sitting on that wall outside, ready for me to bring in. So now we're just copy and paste what we were doing before, just resting them on that bit of 4x2 at one end and getting them all in. And then all we do, once all the joists are fixed on the other side, we come to this side, we just get some fixings in there, making some fine adjustments with a hammer there, just to get them in line. And then what we can do is we can just mark the centres of the joists. We're just going to run one central noggin through this ceiling. We don't need noggins on the edges of the plasterboard, just because the soundboard is a really dense board anyway. Very unlikely to sag on a 400 centre. Usually you just put a noggin in around the perimeter of the plasterboard if you're using a 12.5mm plasterboard, because that could sag. But the strength is there in this case, so there's no need. The central noggin in this case is just to stop a bit of wobble, to get it all strengthened up. So we're just going to mark them centres, chalk a line across the middle, cut the noggins ready to go in. Okay, so we've got all the noggins in there. just take that 4x2 off because that's no longer needed. And then the final job to do on this is just to put the metal hangers in. These just give it a lot of extra support because obviously them Paslode nails on the skew, we're taking quite a lot of weight without the use of these hangers, so structural engineer that was on this job with me would like us to use these hangers as well. Obviously make his calculations a lot easier. That's the twisty Paslode nail gun. Fires out them twisted nails. Save us so much time on site. Usually with these hangers you'd have a pocket full of twisty nails and you'd have to go around with your hammer. Each one of these hangers takes about, I think it's about 10 nails, so you can imagine the time that takes just to hammer them all in. A lot easier with this Paslode gun. Let me just go along and fit all of those. And then once that's done, your ceiling should look a little bit like this. So it's all nice and neat. If you've got any slightly bowed timber, just remember at this point, it's always good to face that up. If your bow comes downwards into the room, then the weight is only going to add to that. So, hope you've enjoyed the video and see you on the next one.